Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie, and you're watching 365 Weeks Pro YouTube channel. Today, we have a guest speaker. Her name is Jennifer Schiffer, and she's from law firm Kinney. I'm going to transfer over, this to her so that she can have a moment to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I am Jennifer Schiffer. As Melanie said, I am an attorney with Kinney Korman. I have been there for 6 years, but I've been practicing law for 14 years. I represent a lot of small businesses. I joke kind of in whatever may befall a small business. I help with setting up the entities, creating operating agreements, partnership agreements, giving advice as companies sort of walk through the stages of hopefully going from being a single owner with no employees to hopefully, being sold for $50 million to some big company and the owner being able to retire.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for that brief introduction about yourself. So today we have 10 burning questions for Jennifer that she's going to answer for us and help small business owners out there. And these questions may speak out to you. It may resonate some of you and it may not, but please keep listening, keep watching, because she has some really great information that's going to be shared with you today. So Jennifer, I'm going to ask you the very first question today is, number one, what are some ways business owners can help proactively prepare for an inevitable legal dispute?
So the best thing is to make sure you're keeping a good record of everything that you do. Throwing things away, destroying things is not a good solution. The other thing is to make sure you have good contracts on the front end that protect you. For example, if you're engaging with clients and you just do it on a handshake, that is a recipe for disaster. You want to make sure you have a contract that says the exact terms of what you're supposed to be doing, how it's supposed to be done, when it's supposed to be done, and the costs of it. In addition, if you have that contract, I would recommend including a legal fees provision that prevailing party wins, because that then inevitably helps stop disputes earlier on if someone's kind of making a mountain out of a molehill because they don't want to pay for your legal fees if there's really nothing going on.
Right. And that is very true. That is very true. And I'm going to jump into number two. Question number two is, what are some common legal mistakes small business owners make, and how can they avoid making those mistakes?
So one of the first mistakes they make is when everything is rosy at the beginning of a company, they think, great, we don't need a written agreement between each other. That is a huge mistake because unfortunately, as your business grows or as you hit rough times, things will not always be rosy. And when they go south in a hurry with lots and lots of problems. The other thing small business owners make a big mistake about is they make a lot of assumptions. They assume everybody else is out there, has only good intentions. Sadly, that's not true. So you need to make sure, again, that you have contracts, you have written documents, and that you really are making sure you know what you're supposed to be doing and not overstepping. One other thing, in setting up websites for small businesses run awry, is they just take art off the internet and pictures off the internet, and they get a letter saying cease and desist, or you need to pay gobs of money for this. You need to make sure they're doing everything from the start correctly, because otherwise you're going to take one step forward and 2 steps backwards.
That is very, very true there. And I solidly agree with that. Marketing, using someone's information out there, you've got to have a lawyer take a look at these, right? So very, very good. Thank you, Jennifer, for answering number two. We're going to jump into number three. Why and when should you hire a small business lawyer?
That's a great question that I get asked a lot, particularly with things like LegalZoom, Legal Expert, all those out there. Those sites are great sort of at the very initial stage. And so I don't want to discourage them because I'd rather use something than nothing. But what they don't do is they're not narrowly tailored to you and your particular business. Right. And that's really where a lawyer comes in. To create the entity, you may not need an attorney because that's a fairly easy thing to do. on the Corporation Commission website in whatever state you're in. However, where you probably need a lawyer is once you start having contracts that you're signing, once you have some liability or risk that you're undertaking. And indeed, a lot of my clients have me create the entity just so I can start with them from the get-go and make sure they're set up correctly and can move forward, without worry each step of the way. A lot of my first touches with clients, though, are when they hire employee number one or independent contractor number one, or signing some contract that says, your liability risk is $1 million, even though it might be a $50,000 contract. Those are the steps for most small businesses say, okay, now I'm ready to spend money on an attorney because I'm putting a lot on the line for myself.
Right. And this speaks to a lot of those friends and family that wants to get into a partnership, specifically directly towards that segment too. So, and I know that we don't have a lot of time today. We have about 30 minutes in this video. So I'm sure that Jennifer has additional information on the side about that. I'm going to jump into number 4. What are the benefits of having an established relationship between your lawyer and an accountant?
Yes, so that is an excellent question. I can give you a real world example that happened yesterday. One of my clients called me up, and he is an S corporation, which is a different way you can be taxed.
Right.
And he said, well, you've never met my accountant. My accountant's never met you. But we all need to talk now because we breached the S election. How do we fix this? Right. So Hannah, his accountant, and I met 5 years ago when I first started working with him. We would have seen this as a problem on the front end as opposed to getting picked up by the IRS. And it's going to cost him a whole lot more now than it would have 5 years ago for us to have had a 15-minute conversation and gone forward. And that's just an example where attorneys and accountants, those are the two, I don't want to say most important pieces of your business, because obviously your business is the most important part. But you need to make sure you're set up correctly and doing everything correctly so that you don't ever have to worry about those things.
So that is very important from the start. Don't dive in if you don't know how to swim, is what I like to say.
Yes.
And don't dive in with the sharks. Number 5, what are some questions small business owners should be asking their accounting firm, and how should the accounting firm respond?
So the first question is, how should I keep my books and records? Because if you are not keeping your books and records properly, even if you have an LLC to provide you limited liability, that will be breached. Because if you mix your personal finances and your business finances, your LLC essentially goes away. So you need to be asking your accountant, how should I keep my records? Do you need to audit it? Do you need to do my bookkeeping?
Right.
It's sort of, how do we get set up correctly? Are you going to write my checks? Should I write my checks? Are you going to run my payroll? Am I going to run my payroll? But you really need to make sure that there's a clear definition between you individually and your business. And that is the first question to ask your accountant, is just, what is the best way for me to make sure that I'm keeping receipts and things like that? And I understand small business owners, you're probably putting in a lot of your own money to start with.
Right.
So you need to make sure that money is coming in correctly, because that's not a problem to be doing that. It's when you start commingling across the two accounts, that's the problem. So you want to talk to your accountant about, how do we get that money in initially to make sure it's done correctly so I'm not breaching the LLC umbrella to start off with.
Right. And that is very important. Again, from starting, doing it right, to going through it with emotion, with the right, professional right beside you can guide you so you're not in trouble when you're in your second, third year into business, and then it's costing you a lot of money. So that's a big point there. And then number 6, what are my risks of getting sued as a small business owner? And how can, I mitigate those risks if I was to be a small business owner?
So as I was just mentioning, the first thing you want to do is make sure you set up your business correctly. Do not mingle your personal expenses with your business expenses. Do not mingle your personal money with your business money. They are separate, and you need that clear separation. Otherwise, a client will be able to pierce the corporate veil. So that's a really important sort of first step. And again, that's why the accountant coming in on the front end is needed to make sure that's done correctly. Because once you breach it once, it's all out the window.
Right.
Even if you've never done it ever again, that is a problem for you. As a small business owner, something else to consider is an umbrella insurance policy. Typically, those are not that expensive to get. So that's in addition to your liability insurance you have personally and your liability insurance you have for your company. But an umbrella insurance policy will overall protect you personally in case somehow that client is able to pierce the corporate veil. It will protect you and your personal assets. Something else, that I like to consult with clients about is how they own their individual assets. Because again, we're trying to protect your assets. Clients may sue you for bad acts, but you also may get sued by creditors. And those are two different things. Creditors, because you may be taking out a large line of credit initially to fund your business. How do we protect, for example, your primary residence from being taken by your creditor?
Right.
I'm sure your spouse, for example, would not want that to happen.
Right.
And that's something I go through on the front end with clients just to make sure we're protecting you individually as best we can from your business. Because you want to jump in and get your business going. But as an attorney, I have to think of the downside. And you want to make sure that downside is not going to risk your primary residence.
That is good points out there. And you said a very good word, pierce the corporate veil. And I kind of want you to expand on that because a lot of people don't understand that, that phrase. Yep. What does that mean for them?
So piercing the corporate veil is a legal term that the owner of a company, whether it's a corporation or a limited liability company, it doesn't apply to a partnership, but a limited liability company or a corporation, the owners are protected from the creditors of the business, assuming they uphold the requirements of a corporation or an LLC. So if you do something wrong for your business, that's where there's potential for piercing the corporate veil. It is a very, very high legal standard, so we don't see it often. But where I see it affecting a lot of small business owners is they get threatened with it. And the threat of it, as a small business owner, you don't want to be going into litigation. So you're ending up thinking, oh my gosh, what's my worst case scenario? How do I get out of this on the front end? So it's really how corporate veil is the protection the LLC or corporation provides to the owners to keep the owners separate from the liabilities of the business. The more you start blurring those lines between you and your business is where that corporate veil starts getting very blurry, and there are potentially legal risks for you as an individual owner. The best example I can give is sometimes I say to clients, okay, you've done a great job setting up yourself individually and your retail store is totally separate from you. There are no personal guarantees, no nothing. That retail store has just failed and gone belly up. Great. The creditors can't get blood from a rock.
Right.
So we just walk away. There's not even a need for bankruptcy because they can't get through the corporate veil to the owner individually.
Oof. And that, guys, is very important. Again, keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about your legal entity and how you want to separate your personal and your business to protect you. And I'm going to jump into number 7 here. So, are there any risks or issues I could face when using my personal assets to run my business?
Yes, there are. And that's why, again, you want to talk to your accountant and make sure you are setting it up correctly. Because, of course, as a small business owner, you're going to need to use your own personal assets to fund it. It's not like a pile of money is just going to be dropped into your company and say, here's $100,000, go get started. You're going to have to use your own money. So yes, you definitely want to have your personal assets. You might want to make a personal loan to your company that's going to be paid back. You also can make an initial investment in the company, which is your capital contribution. And your accountant and your attorney can work through that. But it's something that's carried forward on your tax returns, and it can have deductions against it each year. That's why some companies, for example, quote unquote, never show a profit, because the capital investments are constantly going into it, and then the write-offs against it, they always show a loss. So you can absolutely use your personal assets. It's just you need to work with your attorney and your accountant to make sure you're not messing things up along those lines. If you're always using, for example, your personal credit card for your business expenses, you need to chat with your accountant about how to reimburse yourself properly from your business to that card, and then maybe think about getting a business credit card down the line.
Very good points. Very good points. That is super important, especially when you're considering about your first capital investment into the business, right? And how you're going to utilize that. So I love that answer, and I'm sure you guys are also anticipating more information that she's going to share here. So we have 3 more questions to go. And the next question is, what should I consider before taking on investors? And this is super important for those startups, for those people who have some innovative ideas and they think that, okay, I'm going to get some investors in this, and what should I do, and how do I prepare for this situation? So I'll have Jennifer answer that question.
So, the first thing is, what type of investor are they? If they're your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, okay, that might be one category where they might be friendly, they might be silent, and just say, here's money, I'm trying to help you out. Versus, regular investors out there, are they? So I get a lot of clients coming to me saying, okay, I'm getting an investment from such and such. They're going to be a silent investor. Well, what does that really mean, that they're going to be silent? And that's where we have to work through an agreement with the investor to really define what the role of that investor is. If they're just giving you money, great. Are they coming in and are they going to have ownership in your company straight away? Are they going to be benchmarks that have to be met before they get ownership? Are they coming in just simply as a loan that might have a conversion right down the line? But those investors, it's great when you want to bring investors because you need investments to keep growing. But there are a lot of different things in that relationship to think about. And I joke with clients, sometimes as we start working through with the investor, sometimes it's really easy, and I give a fee estimate up front and we're done with that. Sometimes it exceeds the fee estimate by 5 or 10 times. At the end of the day, I ask my client, are you really sure this is the person you want to invest in your company and be working with? If it was this hard to even get their money in, think about what that relationship's going to be like in a year, 2 years, or when you weather a bad storm. What are they going to be doing? So it's really important to make sure you document how the investment is coming in, both from a legal perspective and an accounting perspective.
Right.
And there's tons and tons of flexibility for how investors can come in. You just need to think through it and work it out.
Right. Understanding that relationship from the beginning is super important. So down the line, when something goes sour, you know exactly where you stand as a business owner with your investors. So thank you, Jennifer. That was really good. That really, I hope everyone is enjoying these helpful tips. Number 9, how can I protect my name off my business? And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. They think, oh, I have a name for my business and I'm going to name it this way. So how can they do that?
Yes. So this is one of the initial steps that I recommend taking, is consulting with a trademark attorney potentially to run just a really, really quick search. There are all sorts of different types of searches. You can go be really, really expensive, or they can do a quick search just to say, hey, I think you're in the clear. But you need to make sure. We had a client about 18 months ago who didn't come to us until the day before he was going to launch. But he had been doing tons of marketing, and he got a cease and desist letter saying, you're infringing on my trademark. He had spent $700,000 on his marketing at that point and had to go change his business name, get a new URL, rewrite his website. I mean, it was ridiculous. And our trademark attorney was like, would you talk to me on the front end would have been a few $100s. And we could have saved you all of this time and energy. So it's really important to consult with someone about your name. In addition, you need to continue to preserve your name. And preserving your name is both your trademark, the actual name, logo, all of that, but also your reputation. Because there is a lot of people, particularly on the internet now, and giving internet reviews, that you want to make sure bad posts are not up there about you that are untrue. If it's true, there's nothing we can do to help you. But defamation, internet defamation, all of that are very important to get in front of, because for a small business, one bad review could potentially send you down tubes without you ever even knowing.
Right. That's very important. Defamation and protecting your name and understanding, you have the first option. There's professionals out there that actually can help you, just as Jennifer, to research the name before you file the name with the state and do the marketing with it. I mean, those are costly mistakes here. We're not just talking about a couple hundred, we're talking about thousands of money. So thank you, Jennifer, for that. That was very helpful. And then last but not least, last questions we have for today. What happens if my business grows rapidly or tanks suddenly? And how can I prepare for either scenario? And what should I do to protect my business at this situation?
Sure. So, it's great when your business grows rapidly, but that's where you need to make sure you have good professionals in your court who can grow with you and who know your business from the start, so that when you're growing, they can say, hey, look, this is what you need to do. You may want to check in with your accountant, your attorney every 6 months, every year, just to give a high sign saying, I'm still floating, but my next 6 months, my next quarter looks like I'm going to double in size or triple in size, or I'm going to get this contract award, so that we can help you prepare and think about, okay, are you bringing on independent contractors? Are you bringing on employees? Are you going to have to sign a lease? Are you going to need to tap into your line of credit? So that we can help you prepare, because as you're growing, typically that means something around you is growing, be it employees, be it your liabilities, be it your space, be it your online presence, whatever it might be. So we need to make sure that's there. On the flip side, if you're sort of starting to head south, it's very important to talk to people early and often, because we can try and help you, particularly as we're seeing through this pandemic. Trying to address the landlords head on and up front about the rent was far better than the people who sat on their hands and did nothing. Because if you sit back and do nothing, at the end of the day, they're going to come back and knock on your door. Whereas if the landlord, for example, knows up front what's going on, they're going to be more flexible and more willing to work with you, at least to a certain extent. So you might be able to avoid bankruptcy, which is sort of the least
option,
but where you don't want to go. You want to be working it out with your creditors, with your vendors. And I know one of the hard things during this pandemic, for example, a lot of small businesses have faced, is they call me and say, hey, look, I need your help, but I can't pay you right now. Okay, we work through that too. I know they're calling their accountants with the same thing. And for the most part, if it's a professional you've worked with regularly and you have a history with, just like the landlord, just like the bank, they'll work with you too for when things go back up the other way, because it's not going to be like this forever, hopefully.
Hopefully. Right. And just speaking out and reaching out to those people, being open in communication can really make a difference in your situation during the pandemic, right? Especially when things go haywire and everything is going, hopefully not burning or papers flying off the roof or around this, your office, but there's some options that you have, and reaching out to your professional or Schiffer or myself or somebody that knows have experience in this type of situation can help you get out of it or mitigate some of those case scenarios that you have. I think she has given us so much tips here that you guys will probably feel more comfortable wherever you are in your business. But if you are in the middle of these type of scenarios or situations in your business, feel free, click the link below for Jennifer Schiffer's information. We're going to share her information in the description so you guys can read a little bit about her firm, herself, her background, what she does, and feel free to reach out to her. Jennifer, do you have anything else to say as a closing statement?
Just, good luck. It's an exciting time when you're a small business owner and starting out as a small business owner. Just make sure, you are protecting yourself and doing what you should be, because we want to see you succeed. And that's what Melanie's here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what all the professionals that help small businesses are here for. And we're small business owners ourselves. So,
Right.
Make sure you're doing what you should be and succeeding. Because again, as I said at the beginning, we want to see you get sold for $50 million to that huge company and be able to ride off into the sunset.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for watching. Feel free to, click on the next video, or you can also subscribe. And thank you again for your time today and watching this content. We'll be posting more of these, guest speaker in the end of the month. So thank you. Have a good day.